Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the back of the Great Hall. She had stood there for 3 years now. Before her, dozens of ambassadors had stood in that same spot. 60 years of human ambassadors, all standing at the back, behind every other species in the galaxy. The grand atrium of the Galactic Council was beautiful. Crystal pillars rose hundreds of meters into the air. Light from a dying star poured through massive windows. Thousands of aliens from hundreds of worlds filled the curved seats that faced the central platform. It was the heart of galactic civilization, and humanity sat at the very edge of it. Elena watched as the Velkari ambassador spoke. His species looked like tall insects with shimmering blue shells. They had been part of the council for 12,000 years. When he spoke, everyone listened. When humanity spoke, delegates checked their devices or talked among themselves. The matter of the provisional species will now be addressed, announced High Chancellor Vormesh. He was Thraxian, a species of gray-skinned beings with 4 arms and ancient, tired eyes. The Thraxians had helped found the council 15,000 years ago. They believed this gave them the right to rule it. Elena straightened her uniform. Provisional species. That was what they called humanity. For 60 years, humans had been provisional. They were always almost ready for full membership, almost equal, almost worthy, but never quite. Humanity has served the council well, Vormesh continued. His voice echoed through the hall. Their peacekeeping forces have ended 3 conflicts. Their scientists have improved our medical technology. Their engineers have made our ships faster. Elena felt hope rise in her chest. Perhaps today would be different. However, Vormesh said, and that single word crushed her hope like a boot on glass. The Council believes humanity requires more time to mature. We propose extending the provisional period by 100 standard years. 100 more years. 100 more years of standing at the back. 100 more years of being ignored. Elena had expected this. She had prepared herself for disappointment, but hearing it still hurt. The Velkari ambassador made a sound like clicking stones. It was laughter. The young species is eager, he said. But eagerness is not wisdom. Perhaps in another century the humans will understand. Other delegates joined his laughter. The sound filled the great hall. Elena kept her face calm and still. She had learned to hide her anger long ago. All human ambassadors learned this lesson quickly. The vote was quick. Humanity was not allowed to vote on matters concerning their own status. That was one of many rules that only applied to provisional species. The resolution passed easily. Most species did not even bother to vote against it. They simply did not care about humanity one way or another. Elena returned to the human embassy that evening. It was a small building on the outer ring of Nexus Station. Other embassies had entire districts. Humanity had 3 floors. Her aide, Commander James Chen, was waiting for her. His face was grim. He held a data tablet in his hands like it was something dangerous. The intelligence report came in, he said. You need to see this. Elena took the tablet and began to read. With each line, her expression grew darker. With each paragraph, 60 years of patient diplomacy burned away inside her mind. The report was clear. The Council had been stealing from humanity since the beginning. Every scientific breakthrough humans shared was copied and given to elder species first. Every military innovation was studied and distributed to potential rivals. The Velkari had human shield technology. The Thraxians had human medical advances. They all benefited from human genius, and they gave nothing in return. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was the secret agreement. 20 years ago, the Velkari and Thraxians had signed a private treaty. They agreed to keep humanity provisional forever, not because humans were unready. Because humans were too capable, too innovative, too dangerous to their power. They feared what humanity might become if given equal standing. Elena set down the tablet. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. "How long have you known?" she asked. "We confirmed it yesterday," Chen replied. "Our agents have been investigating for years, but we needed proof. And now we have it." "Yes, Ambassador, now we have it." Elena walked to the window. Outside, Nexus Station stretched in every direction. Millions of beings from hundreds of worlds lived and worked here. Humanity had helped build this station. Human engineers had designed its power systems. Human doctors staffed its hospitals. Human soldiers protected its borders. And humanity was still treated like children begging for scraps at the adults' table. For 60 years, humanity had played by the rules. They had been patient. They had been humble. They had believed that if they worked hard enough and proved themselves worthy, they would be accepted. They had been fools. "Contact Earth Command," Elena said. Her voice was calm now, cold and calm like space itself. "Use the secure channel." "What message should I send?" Elena thought about every insult humanity had endured, every stolen technology, every dismissive laugh, every century added to their provisional status. She thought about her predecessors, good men and women who had wasted their lives trying to earn respect from beings who would never give it. "One word," she said. "Send one word." Chen waited. Enough. On Earth, far across the galaxy, the leaders of humanity received that message. Within hours, they gathered in secure chambers beneath old mountains. They reviewed the evidence of council betrayal. They discussed options that had been prepared years ago, waiting for this moment. The vote was unanimous. Humanity had tried peace. Humanity had tried patience. Humanity had tried playing the game by rules designed to keep them losing. Now humanity would change the game entirely. Back on Nexus Station, Elena Vasquez began preparing her final address to the Galactic Council. She wrote carefully, choosing each word with precision. This speech would not ask for respect. It would take respect. She worked through the night. When morning came, she reviewed her words one last time. Then she transmitted the document to every human embassy, every human ship, every human station across the galaxy. The message was simple. In 72 hours, humanity would speak to the Council one last time. Every human should be ready. Ready for what? The other species would wonder this when they learned of humanity's mysterious preparations. They would laugh and dismiss human activities as meaningless gestures. They would learn very soon that humans never made meaningless gestures. Elena Vasquez smiled for the first time in months. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who had finally stopped playing a rigged game. Humanity was done asking permission. Now the galaxy would learn what happened when humans stopped being polite. High Chancellor Vormesh called the emergency session with little concern. Some minor issue with the humans, his aides had told him, probably complaints about the vote 3 days ago. He had dealt with upset provisional species before. A few kind words, some vague promises, and they always calmed down. He took his seat at the center of the great platform. Around him, delegates from across the galaxy filed into their places. The noise of 1,000 conversations filled the air. Nobody seemed worried. Why would they be? This was routine. Then someone noticed the empty seats. The human section was vacant. Not a single human sat in the small space assigned to their delegation. Their seats were clean and bare, as if no one had ever used them. "Where are the humans?" asked the Velkari ambassador. His voice carried amusement. "Have they decided to sulk instead of attend?" Laughter rippled through the hall. Vormesh raised his hand for silence. "We shall proceed. If the humans wish to miss this session, that is their choice." But before he could continue, the great holographic projector at the center of the hall activated. A massive image of Ambassador Elena Vasquez appeared. She stood straight and tall, wearing the formal uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Her face showed no emotion. "Members of the Galactic Council," she began. Her voice was calm and clear. "I speak to you today not to beg, not to plead, not to ask for the respect that should have been given freely." Vormesh frowned. This was not how provisional species addressed the Council. There were protocols, rules, proper procedures. 60 years ago, humanity joined this council, Vasquez continued. We were young, we were eager. We believed that the galaxy was governed by wise and fair beings who would judge us by our actions. The hall grew quiet. Something in her voice demanded attention. We were wrong. Vasquez's image turned slowly, as if she could see every delegate in the room. For 60 years, humanity has served this council. Our peacekeepers have died protecting species who mock us. Our scientists have shared discoveries that were stolen and given to others. Our engineers have built systems that power your stations while we are kept in the smallest offices. The Velkari ambassador shifted uncomfortably. Several delegates exchanged nervous glances. We have obtained proof, Vasquez said, of a secret agreement between the Velkari hegemony and Thraxian collective, an agreement to keep humanity provisional forever, not because we are unready, because you fear what we might become. Vormesh felt cold shock run through his body. How had they learned of that treaty? It was protected by the highest security measures. You have treated us as children, Vasquez continued. You have laughed at us. You have stolen from us. You have lied to us. She paused. We accept your judgment. If we are not worthy of this council, then we shall leave it. The silence in the hall was complete. As of this moment, the United Earth government has voted to withdraw from the Galactic Council. This withdrawal is total and permanent. All human participation in council activities ends now. Vormesh stood quickly. You cannot simply leave. There are treaties, obligations. Vasquez's image looked directly at him. We are provisional members. Provisional members may withdraw at any time. That is your rule. A rule you created to make lesser species feel they could leave, while knowing none would dare. She smiled slightly. We dare. This is foolish, the Velkari ambassador declared. Humans need the council. Without our trade networks, your economy will collapse. Without our protection, you will be vulnerable. You are throwing away everything over wounded pride. Perhaps, Vasquez replied. Let us see who needs whom. She straightened her shoulders. I now announce the following actions, effective immediately. All human peacekeeping forces are recalled to Earth space. All human scientific exchange programs are terminated. All human engineers maintaining council infrastructure are withdrawn. All human medical personnel at council facilities will depart within 30 standard days. Murmurs of concern began spreading through the hall. The scale of what she described was becoming clear. All human patrolled trade routes are now unprotected, Vasquez continued. All human-maintained systems require new operators. All human-developed technologies provided under provisional membership terms are no longer supported. You are bluffing, someone shouted. Humans cannot survive without us. That is possible, Vasquez admitted. Perhaps humanity will struggle. Perhaps we will suffer. But we are very good at surviving hard times. Can you say the same? She straightened once more. To the smaller species of this council, the ones who have shown us kindness over the years, we are sorry. We did not wish to cause hardship, but we cannot continue to accept treatment that no being should accept. We hope you understand. Her gaze swept across the hall one final time. To the elder races who have ruled this council for millennia, I offer no apology. You created this situation through your arrogance. Whatever happens next is your responsibility. The Velkari ambassador made a dismissive gesture. Go then. Run home to your little planet. In a year, you will come crawling back begging for readmission." Vasquez actually laughed. It was a genuine warm laugh that seemed completely out of place. "Ambassador, you have never understood humanity. Not once in 60 years have you tried to understand us." She leaned forward slightly. "We do not crawl. We do not beg. When we fall, we stand again. When we face walls, we break them down. When we are told something is impossible, we do it anyway. This is not pride. This is simply what we are." Her image began to fade. "Goodbye, Council. We will not meet again until you learn to treat others as equals. Based on your history, that may take several thousand years. Humanity is patient. We can wait." The hologram vanished. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The grand atrium, which had heard countless debates and declarations over 15,000 years, had never experienced anything like this. Then the Velkari ambassador laughed. "Children," he said. "Foolish, emotional children. They will return within months." Others joined his laughter, but it was forced. Nervous. Some delegates were already checking their devices, calculating how many humans worked in their systems. High Chancellor Vormesh did not laugh. He sat very still, remembering something a human diplomat had told him years ago. Humans, she had said, were slow to anger. They gave many chances. They preferred peace to conflict. But when they finally decided to act, she had said, they did not make empty threats. They did not bluff. They did not show their cards until they were ready to win. Vormesh looked at the empty human seats. He thought about every human engineer, doctor, soldier, and scientist scattered across council space, thousands of them, tens of thousands, all of them leaving, all at once. "What have we done?" he whispered. Nobody heard him. Everyone was too busy laughing at the foolish humans who had just made the biggest mistake of their short history. They would not be laughing for long. On every station, every colony, every outpost across the galaxy, humans were already packing their things. They moved calmly and efficiently. No panic, no drama, just quiet, organized departure. They had been preparing for this moment for years. They had hoped it would never come, but they had prepared anyway. That was another thing the galaxy did not understand about humanity. They always had a plan. 30 days after humanity's withdrawal, the galaxy began to fall apart. It started with small things. A mining station in the outer regions lost power for 6 hours because nobody knew how to repair the human-designed generators. A hospital ship ran out of a critical medicine that human scientists had developed, and no one remembered the formula. A trade convoy was attacked by pirates in a corridor that human patrol ships had protected for decades. Small things, easy to dismiss, easy to blame on bad luck or temporary problems, but the small things kept happening, and they grew larger every day. Director Kethaval of the Kaveth Mining Consortium stared at the reports on his desk. His species had 4 eyes, and all of them were tired from reading bad news. The consortium controlled 60% of the galaxy's rare mineral extraction. They were one of the wealthiest organizations in council space, and they were dying. "Explain this to me again," he said to his aide. Slowly. The aide trembled. "Sir, humans designed and maintained most of our extraction systems. They were more efficient than our own engineers. Cheaper, too. We replaced our workers with human contractors over the past 40 years. And now? Now the humans are gone. Our old engineers retired years ago. The young ones never learned the old systems, and they cannot understand the human systems." Kethval looked at the production numbers. Down 60%. 60% in just 30 days. "How long until we are operational again?" The aide hesitated. "Our best estimate is 2 to 3 years, if we can find engineers willing to study the human designs." 2 to 3 years. The consortium would be bankrupt in 2 to 3 months. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out in 1,000 different places. On Velkar Prime, the jewel of the Velkari hegemony, a plague spread through the southern continent. It was a strange sickness that caused fever and weakness. The Velkari doctors worked desperately to stop it, but nothing seemed to help. Minister Velnath demanded answers. Where did this plague come from? Why can we not cure it? The chief medical officer bowed his head. Minister, this disease has existed on our world for centuries. It was never a problem before because human xenobiologists contained it. Contained it? How? They developed treatments. They monitored outbreaks. They had been doing this quietly for 40 years, since they first arrived on our world. We never asked them to do it. They simply did it because they could help. Velnath felt sick. And now they are gone. Yes. And they took their knowledge with them. We do not have their research. We do not have their medicines. We do not even know exactly how they were stopping the spread. The plague would kill thousands before the Velkari developed their own treatments. Thousands of deaths that could have been prevented. Thousands of families destroyed because the Velkari had laughed when the humans left. In the Orion Trade Corridor, the busiest shipping route in the galaxy, chaos ruled. Pirate attacks increased by 400% in the first month alone. Human patrol ships had kept the corridor safe for decades. They knew every hiding spot, every ambush point, every trick that pirates used. Now the humans were gone, and the pirates celebrated. Merchant ships refused to travel without military escorts. Military escorts were not available because council forces were spread too thin. Trade slowed to a crawl. Goods that once moved freely across the galaxy now sat in warehouses, waiting for transport that never came. Prices rose, shortages spread. Worlds that depended on imported food began to ration. Worlds that exported manufactured goods could not find buyers. The economy, which had seemed so strong just months ago, started to crack. On Nexus Station, riots broke out for the first time in 3,000 years. Supplies were running low. The power grid failed for hours at a time. Sanitation systems backed up because nobody knew how to maintain the human-installed equipment. High Chancellor Vormesh watched the reports come in from across the galaxy. Each one was worse than the last. Each one proved that the Velkari ambassador had been completely wrong. Humanity did not need the Council. The Council needed humanity. How did this happen? Vormesh asked his advisors. How did we become so dependent on one species? His chief of staff answered carefully. They were useful, Chancellor, and cheap, and reliable. Over the decades, we gave them more and more tasks, not because we planned to, simply because they did everything so well. And we never noticed? We noticed. We simply did not care. They were provisional members. We thought they would always be there, grateful for any opportunity we gave them. Vormesh closed his eyes. 60 years of taking humans for granted. 60 years of treating them like servants while they quietly became essential to everything the Council did. Now they were gone, and the Council was learning a painful lesson about the cost of arrogance. The smaller species reacted differently. Many of them had always resented the elder races. They had watched humanity's mistreatment and seen themselves in it. Now they watched humanity's revenge and felt hope. 3 species formally declared their withdrawal from the Council in the 2nd month. They sent messages to Earth asking for separate treaties. They would rather deal with humans directly than remain part of a dying system. More species began to whisper about following them. The Thoraxian economy collapsed first. Their currency, once the strongest in the galaxy, became worthless overnight. Human trade agreements had backed that currency. When humanity declared those agreements void, the foundation disappeared. Thraxian banks failed. Thraxian businesses closed. Thraxian citizens protested in streets that had not seen unrest for 5,000 years. The Velkari blamed the Thraxians. The Thraxians blamed the Velkari. Their ancient alliance, which had dominated the council for millennia, cracked under the pressure of mutual accusation. Vormesh tried to hold things together. He called emergency sessions. He proposed emergency measures. He begged the elder races to work together instead of fighting. Nobody listened. Everyone was too busy trying to save themselves. On Earth, humanity watched the chaos unfold. They took no pleasure in it. They had not wanted this. They had simply wanted to be treated fairly. Ambassador Vasquez, now retired to a small house by the sea, received updates every day. She read about the suffering, the death, the economic destruction. It weighed on her conscience, but she did not regret her decision. Sometimes she knew you had to let something break before it could be rebuilt properly. The council had been rotten for thousands of years. It had treated entire species as lesser beings. It had stolen and lied and oppressed. Now it was facing the consequences. In the grand atrium, where delegates had once laughed at humanity, Vormesh stood before half-empty seats. Many ambassadors had not come. Many embassies had closed. The great hall felt hollow and sad. "We must contact the humans," Vormesh said. "We must apologize. We must ask them to return." The Velkari ambassador, whose arrogance had finally been broken by watching his homeworld suffer, nodded slowly. "I will support this proposal." The vote passed. For the first time in galactic history, the Council would send a diplomatic mission to beg a lesser species for help. But as they prepared their mission, they received disturbing news from the border of human space. Humanity was not as weak as they had believed. Humanity was not weak at all. 60 days after humanity's withdrawal, the Galactic Council held its emergency summit. The grand atrium looked nothing like it had 2 months ago. The lights flickered because of power rationing. Many seats sat empty because delegates could not afford the journey. The air itself felt heavy with despair. High Chancellor Vormesh stood at the central platform, looking older than he had ever looked before. 4 arms that once gestured with authority now hung limply at his sides. His voice, once strong enough to silence thousands, cracked as he spoke. "The situation is critical," he announced. "Full economic collapse has spread to 70% of council space. Trade has effectively stopped. 12 more species have declared withdrawal this week alone." The remaining delegates murmured anxiously. Some openly wept. The galaxy they had known was dying before their eyes. "We must restore relations with humanity," Vormesh continued. "We have prepared a diplomatic mission. We will apologize. We will offer full membership. We will give them everything they asked for." "It is too late for diplomacy," shouted a delegate from a minor species. "You should have thought of this before you spent 60 years treating them like dirt." Others shouted their agreement. The hall descended into chaos as species turned on each other, old resentments boiling over. Vormesh tried to restore order, but nobody listened anymore. His authority meant nothing in a council that was falling apart. Then the Velkari ambassador rose. His shell had lost its shimmer. He looked worn and defeated, but his voice still carried across the hall. "Enough," he said. "We have talked enough. We need action. I propose we send a fleet to human space, a show of force, remind them that the Council still has military power." "That is madness," Vormesh protested. "If we threaten them, they will never negotiate." "They are ignoring our messages anyway," the ambassador replied. "Perhaps they will respond to something they cannot ignore." The debate raged for hours. In the end, desperation won over wisdom. The council voted to send a Velkari battle fleet to the border of human space. Not to attack, they told themselves, just to negotiate from a position of strength. It was a stupid decision made by frightened beings. But frightened beings often make stupid decisions. Admiral Velthrak led the fleet. 100 warships, the pride of the Velkari hegemony. They jumped through hyperspace toward Earth's territory, confident that the young humans would be intimidated by such a display of power. They emerged at the border coordinates, expecting to see empty space, perhaps a few small human patrol ships. Instead, they saw the adamantine line. Admiral Velthrak stared at his screens in disbelief. Massive space stations floated in perfect formation, their surfaces bristling with weapons. Hundreds of warships patrolled between them, each one larger and more advanced than anything the Council had ever seen. "That is impossible," he whispered. "Where did they get this technology?" His sensor officer's voice trembled. "Admiral, I am reading energy signatures from their weapon systems. They exceed anything in our database. These weapons could destroy our entire fleet in minutes." Velthrak felt true fear for the first time in his long military career. "How? The humans were supposed to be centuries behind us." "Apparently," his executive officer said quietly, "they were not." A message came through, a human voice, calm and professional. "Velkari fleet, you have entered Earth Defense Zone. State your intentions." Velthrak swallowed his pride. "We are here on behalf of the Galactic Council. We seek diplomatic negotiations with Earth government." There was a pause. Then, "Your fleet configuration suggests military action, not diplomacy. You have two options: withdraw immediately or be destroyed. You have 5 minutes to decide." "This is outrageous," Velthrak shouted. "The Council demands respect." "The Council has 60 seconds remaining of goodwill," the human voice replied. "After that, we will assume hostile intent. 4 minutes, 50 seconds. Velthrak looked at his tactical display, his 100 ships against their thousands, his outdated weapons against their advanced technology. It would not be a battle. It would be a massacre. "All ships, reverse course," he ordered. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. The fleet withdrew. The mightiest military force the Velkari had ever assembled retreated without firing a single shot. When the report reached Nexus Station, the remaining Council delegates sat in stunned silence. Vormesh read the details twice, then a third time, as if hoping the words might change. "They have been hiding their true capabilities," he said finally. "All along, every technology they shared with us was old, outdated. They kept their real advances secret." "But why?" someone asked. Vormesh understood now. "Because they knew. They knew we were suppressing them. They knew we would never accept them as equals, so they pretended to be weaker than they were. They let us feel superior while they built their strength in secret." The Velkari ambassador slumped in his seat. "We created this. We pushed them to this. Every insult, every stolen technology, every 100-year extension of their provisional status. We taught them not to trust us." "What do we do now?" Vormesh asked. The question was not rhetorical. He genuinely did not know. A young delegate from a species called the Fenri rose. His people had been kind to humans over the years. "We grovel," he said simply. "We admit we were wrong. We accept whatever terms they offer. We have no other choice." "The Council does not grovel," an elder delegate protested. "Then the Council dies," the Fenri replied. "Look around you. Our economy is destroyed. Our alliances are broken. Our military is worthless. The humans hold all the power now, and we have only ourselves to blame." Vormesh raised his hand for silence. "We will send a diplomatic mission. A proper one this time. No threats. No demands. We will ask humbly if humanity will speak with us again." The message was sent. Days passed with no response. A week, then another. Finally, on the 6th day after the message was sent, a response came. It was short. "Ambassador Vasquez will receive your delegation on Earth. Geneva. Hall of Nations. Come with authority to negotiate binding agreements. Come prepared to accept significant changes to council structure. Come understanding that the old ways are dead. Vormesh read the message to the council. He expected outrage at the demands. Instead, he saw only relief. Relief that humanity had responded at all. A delegation was assembled. Vormesh himself would lead it, along with the Velkari ambassador and representatives from 12 other major species. They would travel to Earth, to human soil, and ask humanity for mercy. As his ship prepared to depart, Vormesh looked out at Nexus Station. Lights flickered across its surface. Sections had gone dark entirely. The great monument to galactic civilization was failing. He thought about the first time he had seen humans in the council chamber. Small, short-lived creatures with soft bodies and loud emotions. He had dismissed them immediately. Everyone had. Now those same creatures held the fate of the galaxy in their hands. Vormesh wondered what else he had been wrong about. He wondered if the council had ever truly understood anything at all. The ship jumped to hyperspace, toward Earth, toward judgment. Behind them, the galaxy continued to unravel. Trade routes remained closed. Economies stayed in ruins. Species that had lived together for millennia now viewed each other with suspicion and hate. Humanity had not caused this destruction. The Council's own arrogance had built the foundations for collapse. Humanity had simply removed the pillars holding it up. Now everything that had been built on those rotten foundations was falling down, and only humanity could help rebuild it. The Council delegation arrived on Earth on a cool autumn morning. High Chancellor Vormesh stepped off his shuttle onto the landing platform and stopped immediately. He could not move. He could only stare. He had expected a primitive world, a struggling civilization, a people desperate for galactic contact. Instead, he saw towers of glass and steel reaching toward the clouds. Flying vehicles moved in orderly streams between buildings. Parks and gardens broke up the urban landscape with patches of green and blue. Children played in open spaces while adults walked confidently through clean streets. This was not a struggling world. This was a thriving one. "You seem surprised," Ambassador Vasquez said. She stood waiting for them, dressed in simple civilian clothes instead of her diplomatic uniform. She looked relaxed, peaceful, nothing like the stern woman who had addressed the council months ago. "I expected less," Vormesh admitted. "Everyone does," Vasquez replied. "Come, the Hall of Nations is this way." The delegation walked through the streets of Geneva. Aliens had never walked openly on Earth before. Humans stopped and stared, but nobody showed fear. Children waved. Some adults nodded respectfully. The Velkari ambassador flinched at every friendly gesture. He had expected hatred. He had expected anger. Instead, he received polite curiosity. "They do not hate us?" he asked Vasquez. "Why would they? You have never done anything to them personally. Most humans do not even know the details of what happened in the council. But we treated your people terribly." Vasquez smiled slightly. "Yes, but we do not teach our children to hate. We teach them to be strong. There is a difference." The Hall of Nations was an old building, preserved from centuries past. It had witnessed countless human negotiations, treaties, and agreements. Now it would witness the most important negotiation in galactic history. The council delegation was led to a large room with a round table. No seat was higher than another. No position was more important. Everyone was equal here. Vormesh noticed this immediately. He understood the message. Vasquez took her seat across from the delegation. Behind her sat representatives from Earth's government, including the Secretary General of the United Human Federation, a tall woman named Amara Okonkwo. "Let us begin," Okonkwo said. "You requested this meeting. Speak." Vormesh stood. His prepared speech suddenly felt worthless. He set aside his notes and spoke from his heart. Humanity, we have wronged you. For 60 years, we treated you as inferiors. We stole your achievements. We blocked your advancement. We laughed at your dignity. We were arrogant, cruel, and blind. He bowed his head. I offer no excuses. There are none. I offer only apology and a promise that we wish to do better. The room was silent. Vormesh waited for a response. Vasquez spoke. We accept your apology. It changes nothing, but we accept it. Vormesh looked up with hope. Then you will return to the council? We offer full membership, equal status, everything you deserved from the beginning. No. The single word hit the delegation like a physical blow. The Velkari ambassador leaned forward. What do you mean, no? Is that not what you wanted? Vasquez shook her head. 60 years ago, yes, we wanted acceptance. We wanted to belong. We wanted to earn our place among you. She stood and walked to a window. Outside, the city of Geneva stretched toward distant mountains. But we have learned something important during these months alone. We do not need you. We never did. We joined the council because we believed in the idea of galactic cooperation. We stayed because we hoped the reality would match the idea. She turned back to face them. The reality was corrupt. The reality was unfair. The reality was designed to keep power in the hands of species who claimed it by accident of age, not merit of wisdom. Then what do you want? Vormesh asked. Okonkwo answered. The council will be restructured, completely. No more elder and junior species. No more provisional membership. Every species gets equal voting rights from the moment they join. That would end thousands of years of tradition, the Velkari ambassador protested weakly. Yes, that is the point. Vasquez continued. All technologies stolen from humanity over the past 60 years will be documented and formally returned. All officials who participated in the suppression of human advancement will face a public tribunal. Their crimes will be recorded in galactic history forever. Some of those officials are quite powerful, Vormesh said carefully. They will resist. Then you will remove them. This is not negotiable. The demands continued. Economic reparations, formal acknowledgement of wrongdoing, protection for smaller species against exploitation by larger ones, a new charter of rights for all members. Each demand struck at the foundations of the old council. Each demand challenged the power of the elder races. Each demand was fair. When Vasquez finished, the room fell silent again. The council delegation looked at each other with uncertainty. Finally, Vormesh spoke. You are asking us to tear down everything we have built. No, Vasquez replied. We are asking you to build something better. The Velkari ambassador rose. His shell had lost its shine entirely. He looked exhausted and defeated, but when he spoke, his voice was steady. 6 months ago, I laughed at humanity. I called you children. I believed you would come crawling back to us within a year. He paused. I was a fool. Perhaps I have been a fool for my entire life. My species has ruled over others for 12,000 years. We believed this was our right. We believed we were special. He looked at Vasquez with something like respect. You have shown us the truth. We are not special. We are just old and blind and arrogant. He bowed, a gesture his species reserved for the greatest respect. I accept your terms. On behalf of the Velkari hegemony, I accept. Let the old council die. Let something new be born. One by one, the other delegates voiced their agreement. Some spoke reluctantly, some with shame, some with genuine hope for change. But all agreed. Vormesh was last. He stood slowly, his forearms clasped together in the Thraxian gesture of surrender. Humanity has taught us a lesson we should have learned long ago, he said. The strongest species is not the one with the most ships or the oldest history. It is the one that adapts, that grows, that never stops trying to become better. He looked at Vasquez. You could have destroyed us. You could have conquered the galaxy. Instead, you offered us a chance to change. Destruction is easy, Vasquez replied. Building is hard. We prefer hard things. The treaty was signed that day. It was called the Geneva Accord, and it marked the death of the old Galactic Council and the birth of something new. 1 year later, a new forum stood on Nexus Station. Humans had helped design it, but every species had contributed. It was open and full of light. Every delegation sat in a circle, none higher than the others. The flickering lights and empty sections of the old station had been repaired. Ambassador Vasquez, retired but invited as a guest of honor, stood at the edge of the great chamber. She watched delegates from 100 species work together, argue, compromise, and build. A young Thraxian approached her nervously. He could not have been more than 50 years old, barely an adult by his species' standards. Ambassador Vasquez, I wanted to thank you. My people are recovering. We are learning to be different. Vasquez smiled warmly. Change is always painful, but it is also necessary. May I ask you something? Why did you not seek revenge? After everything we did to your people? Vasquez considered the question. She looked out at the forum, at the new civilization being built on the ashes of the old. Humanity learned something long ago, she said. Chaos is not the enemy. Stagnation is. Your council was dying long before we left. The corruption, the arrogance, the refusal to change, it was already killing you. We simply made you see it. She placed a hand on the young Thraxian's shoulder. Revenge would have given us satisfaction for a moment. What we have now is better. A galaxy that can actually grow. Species that can actually cooperate. A future worth building. The young alien nodded slowly. Will you help us continue? We already are. We will continue, but not as leaders, not as rulers. She gestured at the forum around them. As partners, equals. That is all we ever wanted. Secretary General Okonkwo appeared at Vasquez's side. The first session of the new forum is about to begin. Will you stay to watch? Vasquez looked at the chamber filling with beings from across the galaxy. So different from each other. So full of potential. Yes, she said. I think I will. Okonkwo smiled. What do you think our ancestors would say if they could see this? Vasquez laughed softly. They would probably say that we took long enough to get here, and then they would tell us to stop talking and get back to work. That sounds like humanity. It does. The first session began. The new forum started its work. Across the galaxy, species that had been enemies began to become partners. Wounds that had festered for centuries began to heal. It would take generations for the damage to be fully repaired. Many challenges lay ahead. Many conflicts remained unresolved. The road forward would be long and difficult, but for the first time in galactic history, every species walked that road together, as equals. And humanity walked among them, not at the back anymore, but side by side with the rest of the galaxy, right where they belonged.